Last year I had the opportunity to be at East High School to meet students when they came in with volunteers. And there were two students that came in and enrolled that day and actually graduated. One was 19 years old. He had been out of school for 12 months because he had to work in his family's business full time, and that was roofing. He needed to finish 11 classes to graduate, and he finished those 11 classes in 5 months and actually walked across the stage this May to graduate.
There was one young man that we visited with who was 19, I believe, and we woke him up that Saturday morning about 10 a.m. because he had worked all night and had been working full-time, more or less full-time, since he was 15 years old. And we just heard his whole story of trying to support younger siblings and having very little or no support from his parents or other family members. And he was very successful in what he was, in the purpose that he was serving, but he wasn't doing much to further his options or his opportunities in the future. He was taking care of his family.
We had another girl that came in. She was 20 years old and needed one class to graduate and did not want to come back because she thought she had to enroll full-time in school and sit through an entire school day to finish one class. So having volunteers go to her home let her see the different options, and she came in, finished her class in a month and a half time, and graduated.
I will never forget the experience we had. We knocked on the door of this house, and he obviously had just gotten out of bed, he had his gym shorts on, and we asked if we could take a couple minutes to talk with him, and he started to tell us his story. And he started to get very emotional. His father passed away a year ago.
A lot of these kids that are termed dropouts really aren't dropouts. They're taking care of very serious adult responsibilities prematurely, and it really prevents them from taking care of themselves and their future.
And he had dropped out of school to care for his dad, and he didn't go back. He had difficulty getting back to school, and his dad dying on his deathbed wish was, make sure you finish high school. And he was just there waiting for an opportunity, a way to find his way back.
It really is important to everyone. It's not about changing the statistics for Des Moines Public Schools graduation rates. It's about making sure that everybody that we're charged with helping support knows that they have access to that, and that everybody's invested in that happening, not just their teacher or their principal.
A common theme was work was trumping school. I would say probably 2/3 of the students that we talked to dropped out of school to work and didn't realize that there was an option that they could continue having that income come in. And it was also pretty clear to us that the students weren't working just for their own financial gain, but they were working to help their family situation. So they were helping mom or dad or paying for things for younger brothers and sisters. And so work was trumping school. And as we shared a little bit of information, as we talked to the families, we shared with them that there is a way that they could have both.
We lose sight of this sometimes, and the public schools are here for the public good. And what we're trying to accomplish with our schools is to develop very capable, responsible, intelligent, critical thinking young people. And obviously that helps everyone. What I always used to tell my staff as a school principal is whatever we do with our students, I want our students leaving this building being someone who I want living next door to me. Somebody who pulls their own weight and makes their own way in society. Somebody who I can ask to look after my house when I'm out of town for a night. Those kinds of things. And I don't care if they're an electrical engineer or a plastic surgeon or a plumber or work for waste management. I don't care what they do. If they're responsible citizens making their own way, that's what we're trying to accomplish. You know, contributing members to our democracy. So when they see that, when they hear that message from somebody other than the man, you know, the teacher or the principal or the school administrator, they hear it differently. So if they can hear that from maybe a caring teacher or a counselor, as well as somebody who could just as easily be their neighbor or somebody down the street, I think they hear that message differently.
When your team goes up to the door for the first time at the first house, it can be a little scary because some team members haven't done that. But I would say it's important to have roles and to designate one person that will talk and that will introduce why you're at the house, because it can be overwhelming for the family or the students if they have 3 or 4 strangers show up on their doorstep and everyone is talking. So after you've appointed your spokesperson, I would walk up to the door and I would say, "Hi, my name is Jennifer and I'm with Des Moines Public Schools and I'd like to talk with you a minute about returning to school. Is this a good time?" And go from there.
Advice I have for new volunteers would be, first of all, enjoy yourself. Just going out with that kind of attitude is going to help right in the beginning. And then understand the purpose and why we're there, read the materials, have questions ready, and just enjoy yourself.
I would tell new volunteers to come in with an open mind and an understanding that our students come from a variety of different backgrounds, so we need to be open to understanding their situations as much as we can. I also would tell them that while their list of homes to visit may be very long, we may only make contact with 1 or 2 families that day, and that's okay because we need to attack this one student at a time.
Keep in mind a picture of a student returning to school, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do, is to help students or former students see that there's a place for them and they're welcomed and they're wanted. So not think about immediate results, but just think about the message that's being sent. I think that's first and foremost what we need to keep in mind.
And they get encouraged. You can kind of see their eyes light up because they're just looking for someone else to help them accomplish a task, because it seemed like the family members that we talked to all understood the value of education and helping their loved one finish high school.
We really kind of got a groove down. And during the training, we had gotten a lot of advice, kind of assign the duties. And we had that. We had the person who was watching the map and the person who was filling out the form. But what we quickly assessed is really only one person should go up to the door. So we had one person go to the door. The rest of our team really stood down on the sidewalk, close to the front door, but down on the sidewalk. And then our opening line was pretty quickly that we were from the Des Moines Public School System, and that we were very quickly, we were here to see Susan and help her return to high school. And we smiled. We smiled when grumpy people answered the door, and that happened a couple of times. "What are you doing here? Why are you here?" And we just smiled and very quickly said, "We're from the Des Moines Public School and we want to help Susan return to high school."
Depending if it was the student or a family member, we always said, we care about you and education is a key to your success. And we want you to be successful.
In my experience, the families all were very forthcoming with the situations that led to the student dropping out of school. These oftentimes included very personal information or concerns they had with school. And I think it's important to file that information away and to remember that and write it down on the form, so when you turn that in at school, school staff can address that, but to stay focused on giving them information about returning to school.
So what do I do next? And because the day was so well organized, we knew all we had to do was say, just go to the school. Just go to the school and someone will talk you through this, or call this number and make an appointment and someone will talk you through it at a time that works for you, in a way that works for you, with so many options that more than likely it will work for you.
I think community volunteers bring a different perspective for our students and families. I think it conveys the message that you're part of a larger community that cares about you and that your success in life is important to everyone in the community.
There were 3 of us, and we sort of got in a little groove where, you know, I'd say something, the other would chime in, and we had these kind of closing statements about basically we care. And a lot of people do, and you take that first step because it'll be so important to your life. And I think they see the sincerity, they nod, we hand them literature, and we do our best.
We knew it was done when we had provided all the information. We had shared what our expectations were, which was to make a phone call. If they couldn't go with us, just to make a phone call, to call the school, to get information to the student if the student wasn't home. And we just made the ask. Please call.
Well, when we're done meeting with a student or a family, I always think it's important to thank them for their time, because we are intruding in their home on a Saturday morning, and we need to be respectful of them and thank them for their time. And then depending on the conversation, I would always make sure that they know school staff will follow up if they're interested in returning to school. And if they're not, because of life circumstances, I would encourage them to think about enrolling at a later date if things change.
I know we made a difference. Just when you're talking to the family members or the student themselves, they're ultimately glad you're there. Because the most important thing I think people in general want to know is that somebody else cares, and you can see that you're making a difference. You hand the literature, you feel that they're going to make the phone call.
I felt like being a volunteer for Reach Out to Dropout made a difference because it allowed our students to know that they have options, that they're not locked into a 7 to 3 school schedule. And it also makes them understand the importance of education and that they haven't been forgotten by the school system, that they do matter.
It's just helpful to know that there are people out there in the community that took their time. We'd always explain, look, we're here on a Saturday morning. You know, we do have other things to do as well, but we know education is important. And when you say those things, I think people genuinely understood that we cared about them. And when people know you care about them, I think they're gonna remember that, and it's gonna be in the back of their mind.
I would tell you, of all the opportunities I've had to give time, this is probably ranks at the very, very top for me.
The most gratifying experience I could ever have had as a United Way volunteer, and keep me coming back.
This will be a successful day if one student returned to school.
It can be a little bit intimidating, honestly. I've been dealing with families and students my entire life, and I get a little nervous sometimes because you don't know who these people are, and certainly something has put them on our list of people that we want to visit, and you don't know what sorts of experiences they've had or what has gotten in their way of finishing school. So a lot of different thoughts race through your head. But I think what you need to keep in mind is that what I want all of our teams to impress upon those that we make contact with is that we care about you, we want to serve you in our schools, and we want to help you create a path for success.